Hello, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Moore's October Rants. Today's episode is going to be titled Multiple Truths. When we engage in conversation or debate, there's a common tendency to assume that our version of the truth is the only one that holds merit. It's not always conscious, but it often lurks beneath our words, the belief that our perspective is definitive. Yet life rarely operates in absolutes. The more we interact with others, the more we realize that truth itself can be multifaceted, complex, and shared. People often approach disagreements with a binary mindset, right versus wrong, valid versus invalid. This rigidity doesn't leave room for nuance, especially when we're discussing personal experiences, beliefs, or perceptions. There's a kind of emotional investment in being correct, a need for validation that sometimes blinds us to the reality that two opposing truths can coexist. Consider a scenario where two people argue about who has the more difficult job. One is a carpenter, spending long hours constructing homes, hauling shingles up ladders, engaging in demanding physical labor. The other works in road construction, laying asphalt under the sun, enduring harsh weather, and tackling strenuous, equally grueling tasks. Each one is convinced their labor is more intense, more exhausting, more challenging. But if you listen carefully, both are speaking from genuine experience. Their truths aren't mutually exclusive, they are parallel. Both roles demand strength, endurance, and skill. Both cause fatigue, stress, and pride. There's no need to invalidate one to prove the other. Truth, in this case, isn't singular. It's shared, lived through different lenses but rooted in reality. Despite this, many treat such conversations as contests. It becomes less about empathy and more about victory. We see this dynamic replicated in unexpected places, even in discussions about video games. A person might say they played a game and had a great time. Another might respond with an equally joyful experience from a different game. What should be an opportunity for connection too often becomes a battleground of superiority. Whose game was better, whose enjoyment more legitimate. It's perplexing. Both individuals played games they enjoyed. Both experiences are real and valid. The enjoyment is not diminished by someone else's preference, yet the moment becomes competitive. A declaration of one truth feels like an erasure of the other. Why? Perhaps it stems from a deep-seated need to be seen, to be heard and understood. Validation feels comforting. When someone else's truth seems to contradict our own, we fear invisibility, fear that our own narrative will be pushed aside. But that fear often leads to unnecessary division. It undermines the beauty of shared human experience, the possibility of mutual understanding. Recognizing that multiple truths can coexist doesn't weaken our own. It strengthens community, widens perspective, fosters empathy. Of course, not every truth is subjective. Some things are factual, immutable. If someone says the sky is blue on a clear afternoon, they're not offering opinion. They're stating a physical fact. Yet much of life isn't bound by such absolutes. Emotions, memories, and perspectives shape our interpretations. These become personal truths, valid and significant even if they don't align with another's. There's a particular moment in a Jimmy Neutron episode that illustrates this perfectly. In a classroom scene, Jimmy insists that Australia is a country. Cindy responds, correcting him, saying Australia is a continent. Both children appear to be contradicting each other, but they're actually both correct. Australia is both a country and a continent. Their disagreement stems not from error, but from incomplete views. It's a simple yet powerful illustration of the principle that two truths can exist side by side. This concept is crucial, especially when discussing experiences. Our upbringing, culture, education, and personality all shape how we perceive the world. When we dismiss someone else's viewpoint out of hand, we're not just refuting an idea. We're invalidating a life shaped by different conditions. That kind of reduction is unfair and unproductive. It's fascinating, really, how people cling to singular truth in a world defined by complexity. We want neat answers, clear winners, definitive statements. But life doesn't comply. It offers ambiguity, perspective, contradiction, and that's not a flaw. It's a feature. We learn most when we allow different truths to sit beside ours. That doesn't mean we abandon critical thinking. It means we approach conversations with openness, curiosity, and respect. Truth isn't always a destination. It's often a dialogue. What's striking is how often disagreements escalate unnecessarily, simply because someone insists on dominance rather than mutual recognition. The carpenter and the construction worker don't need to outmatch each other. They can both acknowledge the intensity of their work and connect through shared experience. When people acknowledge that others' truths do not negate their own, it opens the door for empathy. We begin to value listening as much as we value speaking. We let go of the compulsion to be right and embrace the opportunity to understand. This shift in mindset doesn't just improve conversation, it strengthens relationships. It cultivates humility. It teaches us that integrity involves honoring truth, even when it belongs to someone else. Navigating life this way also makes room for authenticity. When truth isn't a battlefield, we're free to express ourselves without fear. We become less defensive and more reflective. We transform confrontation into collaboration. In the end, embracing the multiplicity of truth invites us to grow. It demands emotional maturity and intellectual flexibility. It's not always easy. It challenges ego, disrupts old patterns, but the reward is deeper connection and greater wisdom. And isn't that what we're all seeking? To be seen, heard, understood, not necessarily as right, but as real. When we create space for dual truths, we foster a world where compassion leads and conversation thrives. So whether we're discussing labor, entertainment, or national geography, the lesson remains the same. Truth is rarely a solitary force. It lives in nuance, in parallel experiences, in the willingness to step outside ourselves for just a moment and listen. Silence can be uncomfortable, especially when we're convinced we're right or feel that our version of the truth is more accurate or relevant than someone else's. In those moments, it's easy to feel the urge to interrupt, correct, or invalidate their perspective to elevate our own. But that instinct usually isn't about clarity or truth. It's our emotions reacting. We tell ourselves we're making a point, when in reality, we're just being disrespectful. And if we can't even maintain a basic level of respect for each other, we have no foundation for a real, productive conversation. Respect isn't optional, it's the minimum. Anyways, thank you for listening to this episode of the Moors October Rants. Signing out. Have a good one, guys. Goodbye for now.